Solve big grid logic puzzles. I'll use an example from this book. It's nice to look at fresh publications. I do have to say, some of the story content in this book seems dated. For example, there's one puzzle that makes it sound like millennials are 21 years old. Still, the authors did a very nice job. This puzzle is called Lost and Found. I'm assuming you're familiar with solving smaller logic grid puzzles. If not, watch my basics video. Let's begin. Clue 1. Saeed found either a shovel or a lighter. Putting O's, that is, yeses, for both doesn't make sense because he found only one item. Instead, put X's for the items that are not a shovel or a lighter. Saeed was stranded longer than Charlie. That means Charlie didn't spend 31 days because Saeed couldn't be stranded longer than that. And Saeed didn't spend 5 days because that's not longer than any other time period. Charlie didn't find the cell phone. Okay. Clue 2. Atlantic goes with 5. Oh, we immediately mark in these X's too. We can safely assume that if the 5-day person was in the Atlantic, they weren't in the other places. We can also assume that nobody in the Atlantic was there for a time period other than 5 days. These assumptions are safe because the puzzle came from a book where the intro says it's safe. Clue 3. The compass finder was rescued on day 7. Okay, that's easy, but wait, the compass is here and there's no day 7. Huh? Actually, the compass is in 2 places, here and here, so the right square is up here. Clue 4. Kate was stranded in the Indian Ocean. All right. She's also untrustworthy. Let me check the grid. There's no category for traits like untrustworthiness. In other words, this information is irrelevant. To complete the grid, just ignore it. Why did the authors mention it? Well, it might be a funny reference to a different type of logic puzzle where some characters always tell the truth and others don't. Humor is always tricky. It doesn't matter what joke you tell, there's always people who don't think it's funny. Personally, I try to avoid humor. Sorry, I'm kind of cracking myself up there. Okay, clue 5. This is a big clue. It starts, the 5 survivors are. That means each phrase applies to a different person. Sawyer, Jack, tent finder, Pacific survivor, 23-day survivor. Obviously, Sawyer is not Jack, we know that. But also, Sawyer is not the tent finder or the Pacific survivor or the 23-day survivor. Jack is not the tent finder or the Pacific survivor or the 23-day survivor. The tent finder is not the Pacific survivor or the 23-day survivor, and the Pacific survivor is not the 23-day survivor. And the clue also tells us that Sawyer isn't the 5-day survivor, and the 23-day survivor isn't the shovel finder. Clue 6. Sawyer found a lighter and is very likable once you get to know him. Which trait helps you complete the grid? The lighter. Now we know Saeed found the shovel. Clue 7. The Arctic person spent more time than the Lake Erie person, so the Lake Erie person didn't spend the most time. Last clue. The shovel person spent less time than the lighter person, so the shovel person didn't spend the most time, and the lighter person didn't spend the least time. Okay, that's what we get from the clues, but the puzzle's not done. Now we need to use logic based just on the grid. Gridding logic. Let's start with Kate. She's in the Indian Ocean, and she didn't find a shovel or a lighter. So, the person in the Indian Ocean didn't find a shovel or a lighter. How about Sawyer? He found a lighter, and he didn't spend 5 or 23 days. So the lighter finder didn't spend 5 or 23 days. He also wasn't in the Pacific or the Atlantic, so the lighter finder wasn't in those places. Let's look at Saeed. He found the shovel, and the shovel finder didn't spend 5 days. So that's 15 days for the shovel finder, plus all the X's for the items he didn't find. We also know the shovel finder, the 15-day person, and Saeed were the same person. So 15 days for Saeed. Oh, and look up here. All X's except one blank. The 23-day person found the cell phone. That means the tent finder spent 5 days, and the lighter finder spent 31. Who is that lighter finder? We know already. It's Sawyer. Sawyer spent 31 days. That means he wasn't in the Atlantic or Lake Erie, so Sawyer was in the Arctic Ocean, and therefore he was there for 31 days. Notice we now know everything there is to know about Sawyer. Let's look at Saeed again. He spent 15 days, so he wasn't in the Atlantic. Since he also wasn't in the Indian Ocean and 15 gets an X. What about the Atlantic person? Well, they found the tent, so they weren't Jack. So the 5-day person wasn't Jack. Jack spent 7 days. Since the 5-day person was in the Atlantic, they aren't Kate, so they're Charlie. That puts Saeed in the Pacific and Jack in Lake Erie. Saeed in the Pacific found the shovel, and Jack was the 7-day person who found the compass, so 7 days goes with Lake Erie. At this point, we know the solution because we've identified every combination. Some people like to fill out the whole grid anyway. To do that, use the same strategies we did earlier. That's it. We solved a big grid logic puzzle.